Hello, we're live. How exciting. Right, so most of you who will be joining me will have pretty much only just got your link. And if you're also watching the replay version of this, the next 15 minutes is going to be me either sitting silently or basically talking about strepsils. So if you're watching the replay, feel free to skip forward kind of 15 minutes unless you want to hear me talk about weird stuff. Otherwise, if you're joining us live, say hi in the group chat. Let me know you're here. Yeah, I'll just kind of sit around here for a while if you don't mind. Oh, God. More on the cough later, hence strepsils. So, right, I can see myself there. I've got quite a few windows open because I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing with the technology. So if you see my eyes darting around all over the place, that'll be why. Yeah, so if you are just joining, please say hello in the chat to say that you're here. I'm going to do a story while waiting. Oh, no, that's the wrong way around. Hello, we are live. This is weird. I don't know which camera to look at. You should have your link now, so come on over and join me. Hello. Oh, and now it's just going to replay there, so I'll just put that on. So today has, well, it's been kind of busy and kind of not. I purposefully wanted to kind of be really chill today so I can be on great form tonight. But also I am involved with the Just a Card campaign, and it's been our Just a Card day today. So that's actually fitted quite nicely with my wanting a chill day, because I've basically just been scrolling Twitter and talking to people and looking at pretty pictures all day. So yeah, it is a really great campaign if you've not heard of it before. It's all about diverse high streets and making sure people buy independent and everything else. So yeah, it's really great, and everybody's been sharing their stories, and there's been some really beautiful ones about how getting into craft has helped people through like being diagnosed with a disability. And yeah, it's just been a really nice gooey day, and I feel all happy. And it's just put me in the really great frame of mind for tonight and talking all about community and why we do what we do. So yeah, let me just check the chat. If you are just joining me, say hello in the chat so I know you're here. I'm going to refresh this page, see what happens. Okie doke. What are we? We're at 20 past, so we've still got 10 minutes before people are late. What else was I going to talk about? Oh yeah, by the way, if I'm assuming you follow me on Instagram, because I don't do anything anywhere else. But not yesterday, the day before, I posted a giveaway with my friend and also former client Liz Mosley of like this really beautiful print that I'm looking at right now above your heads, which has got the quote, "A rising tide lifts all boats." And that just really resonates with me, that quote, especially where we're all in this industry which is very new, and about 80% of people don't understand how we're making livings online. I just think every good thing that happens to us happens, what am I saying? every good thing that happens to one person happens to all of us. It's what I'm saying. A rising tide lifts all boats. So one person doing well will lift us all. It's just such a great message. So the point of me saying that was the giveaway ends tonight at midnight. So if you've not entered yet, you can go on to my Instagram feed and you just tag somebody in the comments who really inspires you and kind of embodies that whole idea of community. And then if you go over to Liz's feed as well, she's got a picture on there and you can comment on that one. So I'm giving away 3 and she's giving away 3. So you've got 6 chances to win if you enter on both of ours. So yeah, what else can I blab about for 10 minutes? That was only 2 minutes talking about that. I can see a few people have joined, but I can't see it in the chat, which might be my technology issues. If you are here, you should be able to see a live chat if you are logged into YouTube and or Google. Don't really understand how that works, but you should be able to see a live chat kind of next to my face. So just say hello in there if you have that. And if you don't, maybe drop me a quick message on Instagram and I'll be checking it now, if you've got technical issues. Maybe I should check that to make sure people are, because I did say in my story, panic message me if you have any issues, and I've not checked to see if anyone's panic messaged me. No, so far so good by the looks of it. Yeah, 10 minutes. Do you think I should just carry on talking rubbish, or should I sit here quietly? You may also see me. Oh, hang on, I have had a message. Oh no. Hi, Maddie. To be honest, I don't really know either. Yes, so to use the chat box, you need to have a YouTube channel, which seems very backwards of YouTube, but I guess, hey, they want to make a living. So looking at mine, there's like a little coloured circle in the top right hand corner. I think if you go on there, that's how you make a channel. Or maybe Google how to make a YouTube channel. This is the issue I had when I was testing, because I was testing it by sending a link to myself, but my other self that didn't have a YouTube channel couldn't see the chat box. So yeah, if you can't see the chat box, you need to create a YouTube channel. It should be fairly easy to do if you look at the menu options kind of along the top bar. Or if you can access the chat box and you also know how to set up a YouTube channel, whack it in there so everybody else can see how to do it. If you can't get into the chat box for any reason, I'm working on multiple devices, so I've got my phone and I've got my iPad here, so you can tweet me or you can send me a message on Instagram and we'll circumvent the YouTube system and kind of have a little protest about them making us all sign up for YouTube channels. So yeah, right, we've still got a little bit of time, so I'm still going to just talk some rubbish. I'll probably kind of get started about 25 past, just with kind of some housekeeping stuff. So yeah, are you still all having trouble with the chat? Oh no, there's people in there, I can see. Right, so basically the way this is working, I've got a screen that I can see, but the chat's not working in there. So I'm going to have to look on the page that you can see and see the chat. So Maddie, I'm assuming that's you, Maddie, from A Slow Gathering. So hooray for you, you got in. Barb, you're here. Hey Barb, thank you. And Kat, well done. Hannah, hi. Hi, Siga. Yeah, you guys, like, I can't tell you how long it took me to work out that you need to set up a YouTube channel. I've like been sending help requests to YouTube, be like, nobody can see my questions, but yeah, you guys all worked it out, so well done you. Yeah, cool. So, oh, this is so exciting, isn't it? I hope you're all having a good day. If you weren't here, I've basically been blabbing for 10 minutes, kind of waiting for everyone to get here. So, hi, Tanya. Yeah, so I've been talking some weird stuff. So when you get the replay link tomorrow, just kind of fast forward through these bits. So right, it's 25 past now. So I'm just going to go through some housekeeping stuff. So I have got a little bit of a cough, and I have one Strepsil left, which I'm saving for an emergency if I have a coughing fit. So I do have a really great array of drinks lined up around me, so hopefully we should be fine, but I will be drinking quite regularly and maybe coughing throughout the course of this, so apologies for that. I'd also, what I wanted to do as well, oh hi Sarah, just to kind of make it easier, what I'm thinking is if you've got a question that comes up as we go along, if you put it in the chat box and like put a Q in front of it, then I can kind of sort through them and sort through them properly and like come to them at the end, or I can like keep my eye out for them and answer any that are kind of pertinent as we go along. In my head, that's the easiest way to do it. If not, we'll make it up as we go along. It's fine. Saying about having a hot toddy, and I would ask my boyfriend to make it, but he's at work, so bit of a long way for him to come, and the dog, we've not mastered that yet. I was going to have a lemsip, but also I have wine, and I thought I might be judged for having paracetamol and wine, so I'm just going to go with that. But yeah, it's not too bad, but I was running through what I was going to say and literally was like, having a coffee fit halfway through. That's why I've got all the drinks. I think if I keep lubricated, I'll be fine. Right. Okay, so it is just coming up to past. So I said about the questions, didn't I? I'm glad everybody else has got wine, because it is a party. I did say to bring wine. Hi Hazel. Cool. Oh, this is exciting. I know I've said that a lot, but I've never done anything like this. And it's kind of weird because when you speak to a room of people, you can see eyeballs and you can see whether people are getting it or whether they're drifting off. And I'm just looking at myself. I'm talking to myself. So if I'm enjoying it, I guess you guys are, right? Oh, Hazel, yeah, we've had the chat about the issues with the chat box, but I'm glad you're here and you've managed. Hi, Ellen, as well. Tea's fine. Tea goes down well over here as well. Okay, right, so I just thought something else I had to say and I've completely forgotten. It will come up, no doubt, as we go along. Right, so as you're joining, oh, God, Corey. Right, this is going to be quite bad because I'm going to be distracted by the chat box as we go along. But yes. Oh, I've got Diet Coke as well. Yeah, I've got Diet Coke and I've got lemon squash. So I've got all the drinks. Yes, so, oh, and also I've got a stone which I picked up today, and it's one of those really good ones where it's just really soft. So I'm just kind of playing with it. It's good because I've got really anxious hands. Does anyone else have that? Where I kind of like always pick up my nails, so it's good for me to have something to play with. Oh, everybody's still eating. I'm so sorry. I kind of thought, I don't know, I guess 7:30 is dinner time, isn't it? I didn't want it to be too late, but maybe well, hey, we're all here. That's all that matters. Right, so if you've just joined us, I said earlier that if you've got any questions as we go along, put a big Q at the beginning, and then I can kind of spot them as a question as we're going through, and I'll either come back to them at the end or I will answer them as we go along, depending on how pertinent it is to what we're saying at the time. So yes, what I'm going to do, I've got my notes here in front of me, which I'm going to do something weird on. There we go. Cool, everybody's here. Right, so what I'm going to start off with doing is talk about, well, a little bit about the story so far, because I know not, well, probably most of you have been following me since the beginning and since the origins. So just a little bit of background, because we're doing how I got to the position I am now from this time last year. So I first had the idea for the blog back in the summer of last year. At the time, I was working as a marketing manager for a global nursery brand. But that summer, it was a very stressful summer. We had a whole load of issues, and I was taken off the kind of creative marketing stuff that I really liked and more into the nitty gritty of customer service and supply chain. And yeah, I was coming home from work and I was just collapsing on the sofa and just watching crap TV all night. And then I go to bed and then I do the same thing the next day. And that's not really how I wanted to spend my life. Odd as it sounds. So being kind of walking the dog in the evenings and stuff, and just thinking about how could I get out of this life rut and inject some creativity back into my life. Ever since university, really, I'd had a string I've got a string of failed blogs in my wake, basically, where I kind of started them, it didn't really work, or I dropped them again, and it was still an itch I really wanted to scratch. So I wrote a couple of posts in the August, and then at the beginning of September, Simple and Season went live. So at the time, I was reading a lot of slow living blogs. I was very consciously wanting to write a blog that was for people like me, so living the 9 to 5, quite a fast-paced job, but still wanting to retain a little bit of slow living. So, you know, not having the cottage with the orchard and collecting hen's eggs every morning, but kind of finding a balance between the two. But obviously, as we've developed over the last year, particularly in terms of my business and my life, the content has gained a lot of variety, mainly because I've posted a lot of marketing content now, which isn't the same. And also, as most of you probably know, I've moved this summer to Snowdonia National Park, and I'm working for myself, so I can't exactly claim to have the 9 to 5 life anymore. But what I have tried to do is stay true to the origins of Simple and Season and kind of make it all very easy and achievable how-tos, and keep it all around simplicity. Okay. Oh, there's a few more people. Hi, Natalie. Hi, Brianna. Oh, Maid got out doing kids' bedtime. Glad to be of service. Anyway, so where was I? So yeah, that I've kind of gone from the beginning right to the end there. So there's a whole lot of stuff in the middle. So how did I go from being a marketing manager in this really responsible job to kind of sitting here in my upstairs bedroom, typing away, looking out at views of the mountain? So really, it was this online world and the people I was meeting that prompted me to make the change. It was like my proper job and real life began to feel like the one that wasn't real, and my online friends and the blog work became so vivid and all-consuming, kind of like in Narnia when they're in and out of the wardrobe, and then once they're fully in Narnia, it's like the real life never happened. Oh, Andrea, I'm glad your son managed to help you. So the more I was speaking with crafters and independent makers and fellow bloggers, the more distaste I felt about my marketing role. What I cared about was diverse high streets and independent businesses, and my heart lay with helping them build their businesses and not multinationals, which I was talking earlier in my blabble about Just a Card Day, which is today, and that is exactly what I wanted to be doing. So it all came to a head in March this year, which, by the way, feels like 3 years ago. And I went to a marketing conference with my work. So the idea had been, for me, really, that I wanted to go and reignite my passion for my job. But actually, it kind of did the opposite. I was sitting in this room listening to these multi-billion-dollar companies telling other multi-billion-dollar companies how to just squeeze more pennies out of like poor hardworking people. And frankly, I felt like I needed a freaking shower. It was just so icky and so not something that I wanted to be involved with even. And so that was the point at which I felt like I had to make a change. I needed to find something more meaningful to do with my life and to spend my time doing. So as I'm sure you can imagine, a lot of soul searching went on. And eventually in April, I posted a blog post about how I was thinking of giving up the day job and helping people through kind of freelancing and coaching. By the way, I'm going to send you through a replay link tomorrow, and what I'm going to do is like put links to all the resources in the blog posts I mention. So don't worry about scribbling things down or looking for it now. You'll get them all tomorrow. Anyway, right, quick drink. Drink stop. So at the time, we were living in Newbury, which was it's a very expensive part of Berkshire, right in the commuter belt. So I was really thinking that it was going to take a year to 18 months really to be able to afford to leave my job. But later that month we came on holiday here, and because Dan's mum lives here already, and while we were here, Dan, my other half, was offered a job. So suddenly the timeline accelerated rather. I handed in my notice, which was 3 months. And so his new job, and we moved here, and that really opened the door to let me go full time sooner than I thought would be possible. So that's kind of the whistle stop story so far. The learning curve has been, as I'm sure you can imagine, very steep, and I'm still learning an awful lot. But tonight, the kind of idea is that I'm going to share with you the main things that I've learned over the last year to help you shorten your own learning curves and lift the curtain on what's been going on behind the scenes, and hopefully save you some heartache as well. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is patience. And I know this is always the last thing we want to hear because no one wants to be patient. We want to do it all now, but patience is really, really important. Not only because the rest of the world, and more importantly, your ideal customers, don't work at the same pace as you want them to, but vitally, quality requires time. So in exactly the same way as a homemade soup tastes better after a 6-hour simmer, an idea needs time to cook low and slow over time in order to mature and develop. So I spent a good month and a half not even talking about my idea, just stewing it round and round in my head, letting it simmer. And even after I'd mentioned that coaching was something I was going to do on my blog, it was another 3 months before I confirmed and launched my packages. So all in all, my business had a good 4 to 5 months of simmering before I served it up to the world. With hindsight, it probably didn't need quite that long. But when I did launch, I was full of confidence about what I was putting out and really 100% behind my packages, which was a really great feeling. And if I'd launched back in April, it would have been a completely different thing. It would look completely different. I'd have different offerings, and it probably would have failed because it wasn't thought through enough. Having taken the time to mull it over and to talk to people, that enabled me to refine it and to make it what people actually needed and wanted. So another important part of the patient stage is inspiration. So we are at a point online where inspiration and how-tos and courses and podcasts are everywhere. You can't move for all the advice and the should-dos and the must-dos online. And it's easy to spend your entire time consuming information about your business rather than actually working on your business. And this is something I was 100% guilty of over the summer, kind of May to July. I was just consuming information. I wasn't doing the work that I probably should have been doing. The trouble is, a lot of content can be quite contradictory depending on the producer and what they want to sell. So a lesson that I've learned is it's important to get inspiration from the right place for you. There is no one size fits all, right or wrong. It all depends on your business and you yourself. So, for example, you may have heard of Amy Porterfield. She's got a podcast called Online Marketing Made Easy. I'd heard really good things about it, and so I gave it a go. And I was persevering with it, but it just wasn't gelling with me. I wasn't getting the same fuzzy feels like I did with things like #authentic and the Being Boss podcast, which, by the way, I'm obsessed with. It kind of felt a bit hard and overly complicated, and I realised that I wasn't her target audience, and more importantly, my target audience weren't her target audience. Listening to the podcast, although it was full of good ideas for someone else's business, was throwing me off track at the point I needed to be. I wasn't ready for it. It wasn't serving me. And if anything, it was just making me panicky. So from then on, I was much more curatorial about the content I consumed. And I stayed close to what would serve me and keep me serving the needs of my audience. But one word on that as well, while the right inspiration is important, more so is not overdosing on it. When I was finishing off my notice period, I was listening to probably about 5 Being Boss episodes a day. It was a hard time. That was what was getting me through. And it also made me feel like I was doing something when really I wasn't actually doing anything. Soon found myself using the same words of them. Their voices became my internal monologue. The more I was consuming that content, the more I was getting overwhelmed as well, even though it was the right content for me. So I was still working my job. I didn't have the space and time to work on my business the way I am now. And consuming content and learning seemed like the best thing to be doing. But although it was the right content for me, too much was throwing me off. So what I needed to do was learn to use content to supplement what I was doing and make me feel connected to the world, and rather than it being the whole of what I was doing. So content producers like me, we want to make you feel like you're being busy by consuming our things, but learning is important, but it's not a substitute for doing a lot of the time. Okay, and the last thing I want to say about importance of patience is getting to know yourself. So giving yourself the time to get to know who you are as a business person, whether you're a coach, you're a photographer, you're a blogger, a maker, whatever you are, reflect on yourself, really get to know your strengths and weaknesses, know how your skills best serve your business and where you might need to upskill or bring in outside help. So in that post I spoke about back in April, I wrote about the Myers-Briggs personality test. If you've not heard of Myers-Briggs, I really don't have time to go into it because it's quite complicated, but it's, I think, widely regarded as the most accurate personality testing system. And I'm going to put a link in the replay email to 16 personalities where you can do a free test there. So every time I've done the test, which has been quite a lot, I've always been an INFJ. Holla if you're an INFJ. But every other time I've done the test, there were elements of the profile that just didn't sit with me. When, so probably about 2, 3, 4 years ago. God, I keep forgetting how old I am. Anyway, when I was really wanting to be this high-powered marketer working for a big company, but I didn't recognise that in the INFJ profile. Woohoo! Maddie's an INFJ. Oh, and Kat. Everybody loves, look at us all. Oh, we're all INFJs together. This is so cool. Anyway, so maybe you might relate to this, but I sort of thought I had this ambition to be this marketer in this big company, but that just didn't translate to the profile of an INFJ. But doing the test again through the lens of my business idea and these fresh eyes, it just 100% slotted into place, and it gave me the confidence that I was doing the right thing. And for the first time, my ambitions and my passions aligned with my personality, and it felt like it was what I was meant to be doing. And really, it had taken me years to get to that point. So it looks like most of you have already done the Myers-Briggs test, but if you haven't, go and do it. But also, really importantly, read what it actually says, don't read into it what you want it to say. what does it say about you, and how does that translate to the way that you're living your life and building your business? And take time to be comfortable with that and to get to know that and take stock. So I'm just having a quick flick through the comments. Yeah, so you also lose track when you're looking for inspiration. It's so easy to do. There's so much out there. Okay, so a quick drink. Oh, seekers of ESTP. No worries, we're all welcome. So I'm moving on now to kind of finding foundations. So if you came to my Blogtacular talk, you might recognize some of this, but it's a good refresher. So I bang on about foundations and blueprinting your business all the time with clients, and it sounds like it's really boring, but it's really important. And also it's not boring, it's really fun. So often we get this idea and we just run with it, but that means we're starting from the middle rather than the beginning. So you get all those feelings of confusion, and you've got a lack of clarity and lack of direction. That comes from not starting at the beginning. It comes from starting at the middle. So the analogy I like to use is, when there's a new housing development going up and it's just a hole in the ground for like months and months and months. It's just ditches and diggers and for months. And then in a couple of weeks, the houses are all up and people are moving in. It's the same with your business. The more time you spend making your foundations really secure, the quicker and stronger the business will grow. So what do I mean by foundations? Essentially, it's just getting super clear on what you're doing, on why you're doing it, and who you're doing it for. And that starts with your purpose. So a purpose is for everybody. It's not the same as a vision or a mission, which is kind of a bit self-centered. A purpose is the reason for which something is done or something exists. So it's not what you think the reason is. A purpose is something everybody can get on board with. So it relates to you, but it also relates to any staff you might have in the future, and most importantly to your customers. So to show the difference, an example of a vision for my blog would be, it's not, can I say, it's just an example, but it would be something like, I want Simple and Seasoned to be in the top 5 of the UK's most influential simple lifestyle blogs. Which, whatever, good for you. But a purpose would be providing helpful ways to enable creative people to achieve the wholesome, simple lifestyle that they crave. So you see the difference there? It's a more open and inclusive way of defining your business that's really easy to understand and get on board with. Like, you don't care about the first one, but the second one you kind of do. So having a purpose is... Hi, Kate. Hi, B. I said hi, Kate. Hi, B. Don't worry about being late. You're here for the good bit. So having a purpose is important for lots of reasons, but the 3 main ones are that firstly, it anchors you. It keeps your focus in the right place, stops you swimming off after things that aren't relevant to you, and it stops you writing about like makeup if your purpose is that you want to teach people to cook. That's an extreme example, but you get the idea. It's also a port in a storm. So hopefully you'll get to a point where you have loads of opportunities going on, you don't know what to choose, you've got all these things to do towards your marketing, and having a strong purpose really gives you something to come back to and a starting place to begin again from. So compare everything to your purpose, and if it doesn't sit, just drop it. So an example is if the Daily Mail want to feature your product, but your purpose is all around consciousness and ethics, then that's probably going to be a no. And thirdly, it gives people a reason to jump on board. So think about the brands or the makers or the bloggers that you love. They're the ones that you wish good things for, that you buy things from, and that you tell all your friends about. You don't do that because they want to be in the top 5 simple lifestyle blog, or the world's biggest Etsy shop. You do it because you relate to their purpose and you want to be a part of that. So if you're thinking, well, that's great, but how do I know what my purpose is? That's fine. You definitely have it lurking somewhere. It's a case of reining back into the nucleus of why you started your blog or your business. And at the basic level, your purpose is really a sandwich of what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it. So for me, what I do in my business is I simplify marketing concepts to help creative businesses grow in a wholesome and sustainable way through content and coaching. So that's what I do. That's who I do it for and how I do it. Easy, right? That comes over a period of time. I've got some exercises to help you do that, which I will link to in the replay email. It's on my blog called DIY Coaching is the name of the blog post. But it takes a lot of time. So just think about your what, your who, and your how, and get it really clear in your own head. So another key foundation is your customers. Now, if you read my blog quite a lot, I talk about this every blog post, but I'm not going to bang on about it too much. So the most important thing I want to say is just to focus entirely on what your audience wants from you and provide that to them. So often we think about what I want to write and what I want to take pictures of, and when you're creating content for your business, that literally doesn't matter. If your blog or your Instagram is a personal diary, then great, absolutely go for it. But if you're using your channels to promote your business or your products in any way, then you have to fill them with content that is appealing and useful to your audience. Content that will make them stop scrolling and take notice of you. So quite often I'm in Twitter chats and people respond to really excellent suggestions with, yeah, but I don't want to do that. If it's what your customers want, then you have to suck it up. The good news, however, is that with creative businesses, we're very often our own target audience. It's pretty unlikely that any of you have got a business that you hate. So that's a good thing. But rather than relying on instinct, how can you know what your audience wants from you? Now, the solution to that is, it's pretty out there, it's pretty radical. You ask them. You just take the time to get to know them. You chat on Instagram or you chat in person and get to a point where you can really see them when you're writing, and you can recall those conversations when you're brainstorming ideas. In your Instagram captions or your email marketing or wherever you like to hang out with your audience, ask what people are struggling with and solve it. Ask what they'd like to see more of. Ask what they like to read online. And equally important is being where your audience is. So you can't be creating all this amazing content and just like throwing it off into the ether. You have to be where they are. So when I very first started blogging, I was reading all the advice. You'll see this as a theme. I read all the advice and I do all the learning. But I was reading all the advice that Twitter was just the place to be as a blogger. That's where bloggers grow. And I'd never used Instagram previously. Yeah, I only started Instagram kind of in October last year. So that was a world not even on my radar. So there I was plugging away on Twitter, not really getting anywhere. And I noticed that a lot of the bloggers that I looked up to mentioned Instagram now and then. So I thought I'd give it a go. And it turned out that that completely changed my life. Realistically, that's where my tribe was, that's where my people were, and that's what helped me to grow, is finding them. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to answer. Let me just flick through the rest of the comments. Yay. Yeah, need to do some work on my purpose. And also the thing is, your purpose isn't fixed. It should always be evolving with you and with your business and what you're doing. Oh, Aaron's been multitasking. Cool. Yeah, read that, like the 16 personalities insights are like so thorough, but they're so good. Right, Ellen's got a question. So did you know your purpose before you started the blog, or did it grow as the blog did? So I didn't have a definitive purpose like the one that I just told you. But when I decided I wanted to start a business, I did write my purpose right at the beginning. When I first started my blog, I had a purpose in as much as I knew that it wanted to be for people like me living the 9 to 5, but wanting to slow down. And I wanted to create content that was readable. That had been my issue with blogs before, is that I was just writing utter rubbish. So I've kind of answered your question. So the blog, not really, not as refined as a kind of business purpose, but when I started the business kind of strand of the blog, then yeah, I did set out with the purpose. But that does, like I just said, refine it over time and keep kind of tweaking it and thinking, might take that out. Hope that answers your question. Oh, Bob, we've snuck in there with another one. Right, I'm going to answer Bob's at the end because that's quite a broad one. Right, so I'm going to carry on now to talk about kind of having the importance of owned channels and the blog being the hub. So I said that it's not your customer's job to search for you. You need to show up to the party wherever they are. But while you're at the party, you need to remember to invite everyone back to yours. Quite a good analogy, right? So this is a lesson that I think we're all learning recently in light of the shadow banning and account deletion nightmares that have been going on Instagram. So for a long time, I was really guilty of prioritizing Instagram. There are months where I only posted a blog post once or twice a month, as I was just so focused on growing my Instagram audience. I was making it rain with the followers and the likes, but then something will be tweaked in the algorithm and it just feels like you're being kicked in the gut and you just fall apart because you think your business is going to fail. So yeah, it's really tempting and quite often easier to just put all your eggs in the social media basket because everyone's already there, kind of would make sense to use it to build your business. But what the issues of the last few months have really hit home is that we have got zero control over what goes on at Instagram HQ. So the success of your business must not depend on the success of someone else's. And if you feel a reliance on any sort of social media channel, then that's exactly what's happening. And I'm not trying to be preachy because I'm still in a position where if Instagram shut up shop tomorrow, I would not be okay. But I'm working really hard on it and reassessing my priorities and making sure that I'm working at really bringing people over to my own channels. Because it's so important, it makes sense, but we don't often think about it, that you need to make something that you own and that you control the center of your business. So for most of us, that'll be our blog or our website, but maybe it's a shop or it's a physical space. As important as social media is, and it really is important, your channels just have to be satellites to kind of your mothership, which is your website. So they feed into it, but they're always inferior to it. Their job funnels people to the website where you can control the experience they have and how they interact with you. So, right, how are we doing for time? I've got a whole lot of stuff here about expertise that I might flick over. Right, I'm going to talk about expertise. I've been trying to like time myself and I don't want to run out of time. I'm going to get questions at the end. But anyway, so demonstrating, establishing your expertise is the best thing you can do on the blog to hold people's attention. So expertise can be really difficult to define when you're a creative selling to a consumer audience. It's much easier for people like me when you provide a service because I just knock out an article about marketing and job done. But if you make knitwear or you've got a homeware shop, it's a lot harder to navigate. So all the expertise, it's a weird accent, all the expertise means is to know what you're talking about. So a potential customer can think, yeah, I trust that they've crafted this collection expertly and it's going to be really good quality and exactly what I want. So while evidence of your expertise can be threaded through everything you do, from behind the scenes photos and stories to your product descriptions, a blog is a really good place to collate all that expert content or your website. So if you're not sure what to write, I've got a couple of posts that I'll put in the replay email that have go into a lot more depth. But the best way to plan your expert content is to think about what problems your target audience has and solve them. So maybe they need recipes for a dinner party. Maybe they're looking for decorating tips. Maybe they want to learn more about your craft. However, your knowledge can serve your customer, write about that. And hand in hand with that is really being valuable. This concept feels like it's everywhere at the moment, and it really ties back in with being focused on your audience and creating for them. If you want people to engage with you, then you need to be valuable to them. Online relationships are just a value exchange. So you give your audience content that's valuable to them, and in exchange, they give you their attention. So the basic form of that is when you sign up to a newsletter to get 10% off, which we've all done probably about at least 15 times. It is quite an effective way to get sign-ups, but how often do you actually open the emails that are subsequently sent to you? Probably never for me, I must admit. So the more practice in engaging the value that you offer people, the higher the quality of the attention you get back. So that's that bit. How are we doing? Cool. Right, now this is the juicy bit. This is where I'm going to really shorten your learning curve and talk about what I wish I'd known before the start of this whole journey. So these are the things that I wish somebody had told me, and things that would have really saved me time and probably quite a lot of heartache as well. So the first one is launch before you're ready. Now, I know at the beginning I was talking about patience, but do you remember I said that I probably left things to stew a little bit too long? I wish I'd launched probably 2 months before I did, so have a 2-month stew period and then launch. So launch before you're ready is the sort of thing you hear on a podcast. You're like, yeah, whatever. Because it doesn't sound like a very sensible thing or a very safe thing to do. It feels kind of scary and we don't want to do it. But it is the biggest thing I wish I'd done. And why? Because particularly in my position, where I went from being just a blogger to now, oh, by the way, I'm a marketing coach to now, it really takes people time to get to know that change in your direction, to understand it, to get comfortable with it, and to get to know you in this whole new costume. It really takes a couple of months of you putting content out into the world and talking to people for them to think, okay, I kind of get it, I'm listening, I'm thinking about it. So you probably won't get, if you're in the same position as me, you probably won't get any inquiries for at least a month, if not 2, which, you know, when you've got everything ready, you're just sat here waiting for someone to hire you, is soul destroying. It's really horrible. But if you're still working and tinkering behind the scenes, then you don't notice it so much. So that's what I'd like to say to you. If you're thinking about launching something, save yourself the heartache and just get it out there. Make sure it's thought through, but get it out there and try not to focus on it too much. Okay, the second thing is don't start with goals. Ooh, controversial. So everybody loves goal setting, and I always kind of struggle with it because I love planning, but kind of struggle with the follow through on the specific goals. And this is something that I struggled with at the beginning of the process because I just had nothing to go on. No experience of what this was going to be like, certainly no data to work from. And that makes those kind of SMART, you know, the acronym SMART goals virtually impossible to do. And that made me think I was doing everything wrong and I was rubbish and I couldn't set any goals and what even am I? But what I decided to do was start working with a big kind of vague picture, a image of what I wanted my life to be like or just how I wanted to feel, and I used that as the goal and I worked towards that and I worked in that direction. And the more I worked, the clearer it became and the more I could narrow it down into more traditional goals. So don't spend time fretting over making really specific goals at the beginning. Right now, direction is more important, knowing in which direction you're going and going in it. So thirdly, you don't have to understand everything. When you're starting out in a new business, you've probably got some naysayers in your life, or even just people well-meaningly worrying for you, but that's not actually very helpful. For me, that very much puts me on the defensive, and I felt like I need to know everything and have an answer for every little question. And of course, it's impossible to be able to know everything. I still am burying my head in the sand about finance, and I really struggled with setting up YouTube Live for this. So maybe you're the same. Maybe you don't know what to do, you're doing on Twitter, or you don't know what to write for your blog, and it's okay. You only have to be an expert in what you're an expert in. For everything else, you can ask for help. Cool. Right, I'm just going to answer Siga's question, because she said, if you're launching before you're ready, how many blog posts would you advise having before people dish your site as empty as useless? Oh, I think if you've got people who are dismissing your site as empty and useless, then they're probably not your people. But what I mean by launch before you're ready is launch before you're 100% comfortable. So how many? And it depends how you communicate that as well. So say you've got 5 blog posts on your site, but you've got it clearly in your about page, because if you didn't know, generally on all blogs and businesses, the about page is the most visited page on every site. So make sure you have it kind of clearly signposted elsewhere that this is like fresh and new, and make that sound really positive. And then from then on, it's about being consistent with the amount that you're posting. So if you can commit to posting 1 blog post a week, then commit to 1 blog post a week every week. And that's how you build trust, through that consistency. So yeah, I'd launch with something. So when I launched Simple in Season, the blog, I had 4 or 5 posts ready when I launched, but everything else I just did as I went along. And I think with blogging, you can get away with that a bit more, because it's obvious that you're new. It depends as well on the kind of brand you want to be. So if you want to be setting up as a coach and you want to be seen as an expert and seen as trusted, then it might be slightly different. I hope that answers that. But yeah, what I'd say is before you're ready is more before you're comfortable. So if I'd launched 2 months earlier, I probably would have felt a bit scared about it, but it would have been fine. Yeah. Okay, where was I? Let me know if you've got any further questions on that, Siga. So, and then the last thing is that people are more important than you know. Well, we know from our little personality type sharing that a lot of us here are introverts, and I am massively introverted. So I spent the first month or so we lived here just kind of happily up here in my little room, like a princess in the tower, just tapping away and speaking to people online, and just wondering why things weren't quite happening. And I was also becoming quite reclusive as well, which isn't particularly healthy. So I was chatting away, and to all my online friends who've been really invaluable in making me feel connected to the world and sharing advice and talking through problems, and love them for that, like completely invaluable. A few weekends ago, I went to the Good Life Experience Festival, and then I realised how important person-to-person contact is. There were so many businesses there telling their stories about, oh, and then we met so-and-so, and they introduced us to so-and-so, who introduced us to the CEO of Hotel Chocolat, because, you know, that's how the world works. People buy from people, especially if you are trying to run any sort of service. So whether you're trying to be a coach, whether you're trying to be a photographer even, because the relationship with you is so important when you're a photographer. Blog posts and emails aren't really enough to build that connection. So I've really been making a point of going out and meeting people, doing things like this, where although we're not physically talking, I'm kind of talking at you, and speaking and things like that. And you know what? I feel actually really nourished by it. There's a certain thing of getting out of your comfort zone and talking to people. Oh, and Siga says, you'll never be ready, just do it. And that is the biggest thing. So many people say, oh, I can't wait to put my blog live. I've just got to wait till it's ready. It's like, it's never ready. That's the beauty of the internet, is that it's not a book. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you put a typo in there, you just go in and change it in 5 seconds. If you want to rewrite it completely, you can do that. Use that nature of the internet to your advantage. It's a flowing, living thing. So you won't be ready, especially if you're a perfectionist like I am. Like, it's never going to be ready. So just put it out there. So yeah, I'm just going to give you my top takeaways. So the first one is, 1, be where your audience is. So don't be milling around in the wrong place, wondering why no one's finding you. Be at the party and be utterly charming. Do first. So launch before you're ready. Take opportunities. So for example, this year I spoke at the Blogtacular conference, and I applied and I interviewed for it before I actually knew what I was going to say or do. But I knew that it was an opportunity I really needed to take. So that's what I did. I did that first. And lastly, ask for help. Make connections, show vulnerability, be human online. People buy from people. Do what you do brilliantly and ask for help for everything else. So that's everything that I wanted to say to you today. 40 minutes. Oh, sorry. I can chat on a bit. So let me just skip back through, because I know, Barb, you had a question. Right. So Barb's question is, what if you know what you love to do and what value you can bring, but have no idea what kind of business could come out of it? Is there ways to figure it out? Right. So we're talking more like hobbies and things now, are we? What is it that you're talking about specifically, Barb, if you don't mind me asking? Or I can, so if I'll give you an example. So a friend of mine who I met on Instagram, but she lives up here, she lost her job and she's kind of moved back here to Wales. She was in London, and so she just started doing as a project, going around and meeting loads of makers in Wales and collecting their stories. And so now she's got this pile of stories and she doesn't really know how to make money from that. So I think get to the crux of what it is that you love and how you want that to serve people. I think that's the key. If you come at things from a place of service, then it's more likely to be successful. It's that thinking again of not, well, I want to do this. It's how can this help people? Because if what you're doing solves a problem for someone, then they're going to buy it. So with my friend's example, she's either going to make a book, or she's going to make a directory, or she's going to have an online shop where she sells people's wares. So I think that's really the key, is thinking, how can I make this? Oh, you've come back to me. Yeah, it's all about connecting the dots. I think that's going to be key for you, is thinking, right, I've got this skill, how can that help somebody? I've got this experience, how can that help somebody? And that's how you weave it into a business. And yeah, it's going to take a lot of time to kind of think it all through properly. But yeah, come at it from a place of service. You've got to have a ready audience. Does that make sense? So Stephanie said, can you talk more about how you can find your audience, especially when you've just started and have 0 followers? Okay, so it kind of comes back to your purpose again, and thinking like how you want to help people and how you want to serve people. So with your blog or business, with your blog or business, what do you write about? How do you help people with it? And then who are the best people to be helped by that? So for me, for example, there's no point me setting up a coaching business for like department stores, because that's just never going to happen. But where my skills sit and where my skills intersect with what I care about is with makers and bloggers and photographers and independent businesses. So there's also quite a lot of exercises online you can do. So looking at things like buyer personas, if you look at those, there might be something on my blog. If not, I need to put something on my blog, which are questions that you can ask. So it's thinking about what problems people have and how you can solve them and what kind of people have those problems. And also look at the people that you want to emulate if you're right at the beginning. So for me, when I first started out, that was people like Hannah Bullivant, and it was people like Sarah Tasco at Me and Orla, and kind of looking at how they communicate and the kind of photos they take for Instagram and the kind of content they produce, and not in any way copying it, but kind of reflecting it and using the same kind of themes, if that makes sense. Ellen, any advice on making that shift from personal blog to business, e.g. how to put it across to your audience? That's a good question. So the good thing with going from that direction, from personal blog to business, is that people already buy into you. So it's much harder to be a faceless business and then be like, hi, I'm me. So if you've already got a following that we already like you, then you're already like so far ahead. And the way that I would do that, and the way that I did do that, is to start with why you're doing it. So to get them on board and like help make them buy into your passion. So I started out with kind of blog posts. My blog posts kind of faded in this direction more towards marketing. So my very early ones were ones about personality tests and windowsill styling and Instagram community stuff. And so it was all kind of very similar to the content I've been posting before, but just incrementally getting further and further along. And then at the same time, you need to be building that new audience, because not everybody who follows your blog is going to want your services, because that's life and that's fine. So it's having that good idea about what your audience wants to be, like continuing to maintain your current audience, but slowly starting to shift. And that's one of the do before you're ready, like start that as soon as you can. Even if you just start by weaving it through your Instagram captions and things like that, just start that education process as soon as possible. Cool. Right, any more questions? I'll have a quick drink. Make sure if I've also missed a question that's further up, just repost it. Oh, but yeah, I have a blog spot on perfectionism and find it so hard to let go and hit the post button. But yeah, I so relate to that. That has always been my problem, and I don't know how I kind of got out of it with this blog, but I think I just wanted it more. I don't know, maybe I need to go on a therapist's couch for that one. Right, I think I've caught all the questions. So if you have got any more questions, oh god, it's like 8:20 already, guys. Thank you so much for hanging with me. I'll give you like a couple of minutes to come up with any more questions, or if you don't have a questions, say you don't in the chat box and I'll know not to wait. But yeah, I will send you all the replay link tomorrow, and that in there will be all the blog posts and the podcasts and everything that I've mentioned so far. If you're watching the replay link, skip the first like 12 minutes because it's basically me talking about Strepsils. And also what's going to be in there is a link to a little survey, which is literally 5 multiple choice questions, and it will take you about 10 seconds, which is just about kind of offerings I'm thinking of doing in the future. And I just really love your feedback, just to know kind of where you're at, what you're interested in, and all that kind of thing. Oh, Natalie. Oh, yours was the best workshop. I'm not going to read it out because that's a bit boastful, but yeah, I'm glad you found it useful. It was a really fun day. Yeah, I'm glad you've been using this stuff as well. Oh, Aaron, have you used paid promotions to advertise your blog? I haven't. Um, I haven't used paid promotions to advertise the blog. No, I'm considering it for the future. I think for a blog as a blog, it doesn't really work. That might just be a personal opinion. I don't have any evidence or data to say that it doesn't, but I kind of feel like if I see a blogger doing a paid ad, it feels a bit weird. But I am considering it doing for my business because there's a lot of that horrible term of infopreneur. So people who sell courses and stuff, I know that they have a lot of success using that kind of thing. So it's something I'm thinking about for the future. At the moment, I don't have the budget for it either. But I know it's really useful. I've used Facebook advertising in a previous job, and it was also always our most effective form of advertising. If you are thinking of using Facebook advertising, make sure you've got the Facebook pixel in the back end of your website. There's loads of help stuff on how to do it. That gives you like the best targeting because you can target people who A, have already been on your website, or B, who are demographically the same as people who've been on your website. So it's just that little bit more targeted. Biljana has said, what if you enjoy doing many things and services? How to pick one of them? Could you do several things rather than just one? Wouldn't that dilute you? It depends how different they all are. So in terms of services, like if we've got like a coaching, one-to-one coaching, a course and a group mentorship program, like they sit really beautifully together, so that's fine. But if you're doing coaching and commercial photography and selling knitwear patterns, yeah, that's going to be a really difficult one to tie together. So what I would suggest is, like, what is the thing that you can help people the best with? So you're not going to be equally as great at all the things. So what is the thing that you're going to be best at serving people with, and like really nail your expertise on that, and it's probably easier to bring in different things as you go along. Oh, thank you, Sig. Yeah, I've hardly touched my wine, God. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, it is really difficult to kind of, especially when we're all passionate creative people and we've got things that we love to do and we want to do them all. And also don't underestimate having a hobby. Like, just the insane pleasure that comes from doing something just for fun should not be underestimated. But yeah, I think that's the thing, like, double down on your expertise, and it's better to be known for one thing and be the expert in that, because that also means you can charge more. So somebody who I would look to for this is Jenna Kutcher. She has a podcast. So she started out as just a wedding photographer, and she was doing like 30 weddings a year, and then she realized, I only need like 10 people to really get me, and I can do that. So she started off owning the wedding photographer niche. She was like the most expensive wedding photographer, and then she slowly started adding courses, and then she added like watercolor painting, which is a bit random. So but once you've got that kind of personal brand and that niche that you really own, you can start adding other things. Yeah, but if you can tie it all together, all the better. Right. Okay, cool. So I think I'm going to draw it to a close. If you've got any further questions, stick them in the chat. Otherwise, yes, as I said, you'll get the replay link tomorrow, and you'll also get this monthly mail time, which I've timed this really badly. For monthly mail, if you've not had it yet before, goes out the first weekend of every month, and that's got kind of a creative challenge in it. It's got a prompt that we all drill in on Instagram, and it's got like cool hashtags and blog posts and stuff for the month, and I think it's pretty useful, if I do say so myself. so yeah, you'll get that on Saturday as well. So you'll have a really bumper weekend of like going back over the workshop and reading that. So I am going to call it a day. If you feel like you do have any more questions, then you can tweet me. I'm at simple_season because character limit issues. Or you can Instagram me, put a comment on one of my posts or send me a message. And yeah, it's been so cool chatting to you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Enjoy your selections of food and drink that we had at the beginning. And I'll see you all soon. I don't know, I've got to work out how to actually turn this up. Yeah, and it's been nice. Well, I've not really put a face to you guys, but it's nice to put little colourful people to you. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon.